So I want to play a little excerpt now from a video. This is kind of like a blast from the past. You know, our format has gotten a little bit more sophisticated here with the multi-camera setup, the digital audio inputs on the switcher. So this is funny to see this, to go back and take a look at what was back in the day.
Not so long ago. Actually.
Not so long ago. So let me just play this video segment for everybody. And this is. I was reading an email from our friend, Robert David Steele. Let's give a listen to that. I got a little something I want to share with everybody. I just got a very, very strange email from somebody who I thought was my friend, who we raised like, I don't know, $10,000 for, something like that, $15,000 for yesterday. It's Robert David Steele. And he's informed me that our interview tomorrow is canceled. Yeah. RDS canceled the interview because apparently I'm about to be arrested by the NYPD at the request of the United States Coast Guard for filing a false report. He says that George, if he's not already being detailed, which I think he means detained, will be detained and probably released, but the burden here is on you, Jason, as the source. I'm not the source. The source is, you know, we've had sources that okay, so that's interesting. Who starts broadcasting when I broadcast? I don't know. That's a coincidence, I'm sure. He says he'll be available for a Skype interview at any time, but the possibility of me putting myself in a room you control is now zero. And then he says, George, Wayne Madsen is willing to meet you and give you a hearing. I have offered to host lunch. He tells me no one has produced compelling proof on the Awan situation. That's weird, but the burden is on you. My impression of you, George, has not changed. It remains positive. I think you're being played by some very bad boys, and I would be glad to have that discussion anytime you wish. In my view, our shared priority should be to separate you from Jason in terms of reputation and protect your following and continue to help each other. Advance over the next 90 to 120 days. He's going to be in his car. Robert, what is going on? You know, I found this so shocking. I didn't even read that second half of the email until right now. So let's listen.
Still playing there, Crane.
Are you still looking for it?
This is the phone call. It's playing.
And I have no knowledge of whether that is an accurate report or not.
So that's a pretty inflammatory email. So you're saying, I'm about to be arrested by the NYPD at the request of the USCG for filing a false report. But I didn't file any report. I called them, and it's on live broadcast, and they said, we already know about it. So I didn't file any report.
Jason, I don't know and I don't care, okay? Our relationship is over. Goodbye.
So that's basically the phone call there with Robert David Steele saying our relationship is over and goodbye, hanging up. I regret not having recorded the full phone call because he was kind of cursing up a storm at me just prior to that. And so that was interesting, and you know, I wanted everybody to have the background there. So since that day, we've sort of been not the best of friends with Robert David Steele. Of course, the NYPD was not after me. Of course, you know, George nor I, neither of us called in a bomb threat. Everything he was saying was pure nonsense. But shortly after this, we came into contact with Queen Tut, and she's been sharing really astounding evidence with us since then. Queen Tut, why don't you fill us in a little bit and talk about some of the information you've found on RDS and some of the new information that you found, because it keeps getting stronger and stronger, the evidence of fraud.
A lot of people have heard this if they've listened to any of the other videos, you know, with Queen Tut. But we started in June, where I was able to present evidence about the Electoral Reform Act of 2017 being a scam that he'd been perpetuating for a number of years. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Just checking. Sorry, because I couldn't hear the phone call at all.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, so anyway, we did that, and we presented that material in a June interview, and it completely exposed the whole situation with Robert David Steele, that the whole Electoral Reform Act is not an act, and that it's a scam. Okay, then we had sequential interviews where we kind of went down the rabbit hole and presented other information that supported the fact that this was a scam. And now, you can listen to all those people can listen to all those interviews to get updated on the details that we went into. But the Electoral Reform Act, once again, it's not an act. It's a scam. They've never created a bill draft to submit to Congress for all the years that he kept perpetuating this scam. And it was the centerpiece of the Unrig campaign. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, is continuing. It's fascinating to see that this unrigged scam is continuing, no matter how much exposure we've given about this fraud, that RDS feels completely confident in going forward with this scam, and Cynthia McKinney with him.
Right.
Now, in our last interview, I talked about my phone call with General William F. Kernan.
Yep.
And, And I explained in that interview that, that I had talked to the general. He's retired Army general, very respected in his field, just remarkable in his accolades that they have about him. He was Commander-in-Chief, Joint Forces Command, and was in the military for a number of decades. And he was the person who actually wrote the NATO handbook let me say this, he oversaw the NATO handbook that Robert David Steele is claiming to have written. Robert David Steele says this in his bio on Amazon. He says it in his blog on his site. Back to 2009, he's claiming that he wrote this handbook. Okay? Mm-hmm. And when I spoke with General Kernan about Robert David Steele, he didn't recall ever having any contact with someone of that name, and he just didn't understand how this person could be claiming this. At that time, I told everybody in the interview that I was waiting on an email from General Kernan.
Right. Yes.
Right? Yeah. So what happened is he told me after the conversation to please send him an email, shoot him an email, and then he was going to check into Robert David Steele to confirm yay or nay if he had any participation in any way. So I have that email. General Kernan has responded. And we have it, Jason has it, and we have it right here. And Jason, I don't know, are you showing it on the screen right now?
Yes, Queen.
Okay, all right. So as you can see, Jason altered the names. He took my name out and put Queen Tut in, and then did not show General Kernan's email address.
Right.
Privacy purposes. So basically, you can say here where I say, I just spoke to you about the NATO Open Source Intelligence Handbook published 2001. There's a man, Robert David Steele, who's claiming to have been the author of the NATO handbook. I shared with you that this individual has made a number of false claims, and it appears that he may be doing so with this handbook. He's using this information to request funds from different groups for personal donations to his campaign. Here's the link to Robert David Steele's bio on Amazon, where he states he's the author of the NATO Open Source Intelligence Handbook. He also states the same info in video interviews and on YouTube. I'm also attaching a screenshot of his bio. Thanks for your help in helping us to confirm the truth about the situation. So, after a number of days, I did get a response from General Kernan, and here it is. I've checked several sources, and Robert David Steele never worked for us at NATO or at Joint Forces Command when we published this handbook. This handbook...
I thought you stopped talking because you had dropped the mic.
Let's read that sentence again. Yeah. I have checked several sources, and Robert David Steele never worked for us at NATO or at Joint Forces Command when we published this handbook.
Wow. That's
gotta love Queen Tut.
Incredible. Incredibly indicted. Jeez, it doesn't get any more obvious than that. That's fraud. That's fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the email goes on. This handbook was a product of Supreme Allied Command Atlantic, strategy and plans, and championed by a Dutch Rear Admiral. This was definitely a staff effort. I have no idea why this individual would list this as one of his publications when it is clearly a NATO publication. Hope this is helpful, Buck Kernan.
Well, the fact that he wasn't even on the team, I mean, it would be one thing if he were taking more credit than he deserved for a joint effort, but to claim full credit and never even have been working on the team to start, my God.
Yeah.